All right. Today, I have a special guest to help me go through some of the biggest stories in the news. President Trump is signing executive orders, he's making threats, he's following up on those. Mike Lindell, thank you for joining me again.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
So, most people recognize you, My Pillow, Lindell TV. I want to get your thoughts. President Trump says he's planning to sign an executive order that would eliminate mail-in ballots. Says there's
Mhm.
too much fraud. Over 100 countries
Yep,
have gotten rid of that. They're getting rid of the machines. It's
yep,
time for Republicans to get tough. Your
yep.
thoughts on that? And will Republicans actually push for that to happen?
Well, it's Republicans. The biggest things that have blocked me for getting to paper ballots and getting rid of the machines has been the Republicans, bar none. It has not been. It's been uniparty Republicans, and the president and I, we've been for the 4.5 years now, and even the Republican Party, the RNC, they signed a declaration in August, I believe it was of 23, that said the best elections, paper ballots, hand counted, precinct level, voter ID, all these things. And so this has been a long time coming, but I want to say over 100 countries have banned mail-in voting. That's very public. It's been publicized everywhere. And why they've done it, some of them 20, 30, 40 years ago, some of them just recently, but everybody bans it. And then the other one, 132 countries have banned electronic computers used in our elections, or used in their elections. So the United States has the worst of the worst. There's no one worse than the United States right now. And I think the biggest pushback, like I say, has been uniparty Republicans. That's a fact. I call them blockers. And a good example, you get down to, let's just use Arkansas for an example. That's a very red state. Do we all agree? That's about as red as you get. And Cleburne County, Arkansas, 2 years ago, my teams were in there, and in most counties in the United States, by the way, you can vote it at the county level to get rid of the machines that go to paper. And Cleburne County, Arkansas, voted to go to paper ballots, and sure enough, a Republican, the name Kim Hammers, he pushed a bill through. He's a Republican, and the bill said, if you go to paper ballots, we're going to defund you at the state level. Well, that means your county is going, what? So Cleburne County said, we're sorry, we want the machines back. And and then other counties didn't want to follow suit except for Searcy County, which decided we don't care if we're defund or not, we're gonna go ahead and do the paper ballots. And then they were once again attacked by Republicans, and who's the governor of that state is Sarah Sanders Huckabee. And why is she not listening to our president? So I'm hoping that this time with the president is going to get this signed and stuff. I'm hoping that they finally these uniparty blockers, these uniparty Republicans, quit blocking us from getting to secure our elections. Which, by the way, Stephen, all people want that. I can go anywhere in this country, the heart of Chicago. I can be in D.C. It doesn't matter where I'm at. That's why they come up and they go, they know that I'm fighting for secure elections, and that's paper ballots, hand counted, no mail-in ballots. They're not. Of course, you would have, if you go back to prior to the virus, prior to the virus, so many things were put in during the virus, the pandemic, by these states illegally. Almost every state did illegally. Texas did. Texas, the attorney general there fought 12 lawsuits and won them all and said, hey, we're not doing this early voting stuff. We're not going to do this. The House, the Congress has to vote on this. Each state house has to vote on whether to change your election stuff. I don't care what the situation is, that they're the ones that make the election laws there in the state. So all the Secretary of States, they're the ones that did it. They pushed it in illegally, and because of the virus. Well, get this: of all the states, only 13 of them have went back to where it was prior to the virus. And this is really important, everybody, because you got stuff put in for maybe an anomaly in history. Even though you put it in illegally, we don't care if it's an anomaly or not. You still got to quick pass a law to be able to do this. And it should have been, hey, maybe anything that was passed, we're doing it just for now. You don't just to keep an illegal thing on the books indefinitely. So this is what the president's up against with this. And they're called deviations in behavior. Why do these Republicans block secure elections? It doesn't make sense, does it? This is where we're at. And this is what I've been up against, our teams have been up against, the president's up against. He gets so frustrated. I was talking to him the other day. He goes, what's wrong with these Republican governors? They should all want to secure our elections. And they can't say anymore, Stephen, oh, Donald Trump's only saying this because he's saying his election was stolen. He won. He's still saying, hey, we need to secure our elections going forward. For down tickets, it doesn't matter. Every single election, everything comes from our elections. Do you know that I did a poll in Minnesota because I'm thinking of running for governor there. So we did this poll. Do you know that our election platforms moved into the top 3 of what people are concerned about? You know, it used to be abortion and the borders and the economy. It's moved into the top 3. In some areas, it's number 1. Everybody's got this big concern because I think people realize now after 4.5 years, you realize that, hey, it doesn't matter. You can sit and secure, the president knows he can secure the border. He can make it the best economy in history, and he can do this and do that. But if you don't secure your elections, anybody can win them by the press of a button, and you lose it all overnight, just like that.
Yeah. Let me show you, Mike, something coming out of Michigan. You probably saw this, but this is a city councilman. He was caught on tape twice showing up with handfuls of ballots, dozens and dozens of ballots. The next day he comes back, he stuffs even more in there, and he magically wins his election by only 70 votes.
Right.
Only 70 votes.
Yeah.
And then now you've got people saying, oh, wait a minute. You can't prove that he was stealing. Well, guess what? They started digging in even further. And now half of these people, they're realizing that they committed election fraud. They're undoing all of their elections. So, elections and election integrity is a really big issue.
It's the biggest issue, everybody. It's what I've been fighting for and put everything I had in the world into it. Everything, tens of millions of dollars, and this is everything comes from our elections. And you just had a thing in Minnesota. If you see in my home state, there they're saying in this primary where all of a sudden this guy won. They said, oh, the machines were bad. The machines were bad. There was something wrong with the voting machine. These are Democrats now. This was a Democrat primary there, and everyone's going, how could this guy win? Well, he did win. It was a machine glitch, right? And so, what I'm kind of liking now is Stephen, is that, more and more is getting uncovered. And it's not just, remember, there's election crime all the time. One of my cases in Arizona, when we put the machines as a defective devices, it got before the judge there. In that case, the judge says, oh, there's been cheating going on. You can cheat with paper ballots too. That's exactly right. You can. And it does go on. Okay. But when you use computers, everybody knows that you can one change of a number. You don't need 5,000 people of a cabal of people to cheat, or you don't take, thousands of hours at a time. It's one press of a button. And this is one of the things that got me involved in the first place. When you go back in other elections, you see these deviations like, 4,500 people voted in Wisconsin that didn't live there. And I just couldn't imagine myself going, hey, guys, I know I'm a marketer. Hey, let's go gather 4,500 people. Who wants to run in Wisconsin and vote for Biden or whatever, and break the law? That's not real, everybody. And you see, so you're going to see, and that's another thing too, when the president goes, to go to paper ballots hand counted, this is paper, just what it says. And any of these states say, well, we already have paper ballots. Yeah, you do, but they're not hand counted. And this is what all the other countries have. And you can see what it does. That It took one judge in Argentina. That was the last one that went to paper ballots hand counted, and they freed their whole country overnight. They had a real election, and
Yeah.
and it was beautiful. So
Yeah.
it is the most important issue. I talked to the president. When he came out with that last week, with that truth he put out, there's so much more coming, everybody, and we're just on the edge of it. And he's basing it. The media all called me up. Mike, did you tell him to say that? Did you tell him? I'm going, I've been saying the same thing for 4.5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did I tell the president? Yes. Did I tell everybody watching this? Yes. I haven't changed. Okay.
Yeah.
And but one of the things is what's happening now is everything we turned in, we're 4.5 years ahead of where we would be, everybody, by millions of, at least hundreds of thousands of hours from people across the country. We have over 300,000 people in all 50 states working tirelessly every day, knowing how important our elections are. And with Tulsi Gabbard now coming out with report after report, this is amazing, everybody. And it's funny, Stephen, the fake news media is actually putting it out there, saying, even some of the stuff that the president's doing, like cleaning up DC, they're saying, hey, this ain't a bad thing. They're admitting, your CNNs of the world, your MSNBC, but then you have certain outlets I won't even mention that you would think, like Fox would say, I guess I did mention, would say, hey, we've got problems there. All the problems with our election platforms, they need to be addressed. And you're not going to hear that on them or Newsmax and that, which is sad. But as long as the word's getting out there now, and we can get, this has to be done, and our president knows, before the midterms. And remember, everybody, I want to tell everyone, this isn't a Democrat or Republican thing. It really isn't. This is a people thing. I mean, I have no problem when you elect someone and we know 100% that he was elected and not selected. I think everybody I talk to, I don't care if they're a far left liberal or on the right, it doesn't matter. They all go, yeah, we want transparency. We want to know that they were elected. So that's a real important thing. And I've been on I was on Young Turks. I've been on, so many far left stations, and their hosts even agree. Well, of course we want it, because I'll say to them, well, what if I'm right? What if I'm right? Then if you knew what I knew, would you want this? And they go, well, yeah, but you're wrong. They'll say stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
But now we're getting past that. And you asked me at the beginning with the Republicans. Remember, everybody, there was a movie called Kill Chain where Amy Klobuchar, Kamala Harris, all the Democrats said, we've got to go to paper ballots, and this and of course they've kind of went silent now, but they don't, they went silent on that. But you see, everybody's the president's really focused on. He knows that everything comes from that. Everything he's doing could end up being in vain if we don't secure our elections. That's it.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, speaking of Trump, he signed an executive order where he's saying that anybody that burns the American flag at these protests, these rallies, these anti this, anti that, they're going to go to jail for 1 year. He says, "You watch, there won't be flags being burned anymore." I mean, I remember watching it, the Black Lives Matter, the LA riots. Right. Riots across the country, people burning flags. And there's a lot of military people that say, I served, so they have the right to burn that flag. I didn't serve, but it still really bothers me. What are your thoughts on this new executive order? Did you know a dangerous amount of microplastics are now being found in our water, food, bloodstream, even our brains? These tiny plastic particles, often invisible to the naked eye, carry toxic chemicals like BPA that disrupt hormones, damage DNA, and inflame our organs. They affect everything from metabolism to fertility, and have even been linked to cancer, neurological disorders, autoimmune disease, and developmental issues in children. The worst part, there's no way to avoid exposure. It's everywhere. But there is a way to fight back, and it starts in your gut. Your gut is your first line of defense. A healthy microbiome can bind to and break down microplastic toxins before they poison your cells. But if your own gut is compromised, those toxins sneak right through, wreaking havoc on your immune system, energy levels, digestion, skin, even your brain. That's why we're healing our guts through kimchi. Now, kimchi restores the gut flora in your gut. Because in a world full of plastic, your gut needs to be bulletproof. Today, you can get an exclusive offer by clicking on the link below, or you can use code Gardner to get 25% off your order. For an even better deal, call my friends at Brightcore right now to get up to 50% off your order and free shipping. This stuff is great. It's been awesome for my gut, my bowels, my digestion, bowel movements. It's been awesome. And why save 25% when you can save up to 50% and get free shipping? Again, give them a call at 888-908-4425.
This is the first I've heard of it, but do I agree 100% with it? No. Because I think you're going to have people that are going to do it anyway. And I think it would go back to your, there's laws like, gee, will everybody continue to deal and do crack cocaine if we give them 10-year prison sentences? Well, the answer was yes, they will. And that, I did crack back then, so I watched a lot of friends of mine that were, because they had crack instead of cocaine, went for 10 years, and the same amount of cocaine, you got very serious slap on the wrist. And I get the process behind it. You wish it would just stop overnight. Now, would it be a crime with maybe would it deter it with a lesser of a sentence? I think there's a teeter-totter there. I know our president always goes, hey, this is what you're going to get. And maybe he brings it back because of pushback to you get an automatic month in jail. Now, by all means, boom, absolutely. I think, then you're going to deter people that are doing it out of stupidity and out of just they're out there thinking it's they don't respect our flag. And then I said you also get people that are that maybe did it to show up and they end up getting a year in jail. You follow me? I think there's a teeter-totter there that's more of a common sense. And like I say, this is the first I've thought of it, or heard of this, but it's kind of like this, and this is a big thing I'm going to be involved in with fentanyl. I'll give you guys another thing where the president said, but like China says, if you're dealing drugs, you're a death penalty. Remember that? That was a big thing they had on the news. Well, you think that people are going to quit dealing drugs because that? No, people are addicted, and there's people that are doing these things, dealing, that maybe that's the only life they know, or that's the only thing they can do to survive. People will do whatever you can to survive. Is it wrong? Yes. So, that's a teeter-totter thing there too. You know what I mean? And I did a thing once, and by the way, I'm going to be involved in a big thing with fentanyl. And one of the things, you talk about drugs, about people, and I often said years ago, I said, this kind of gets off the track here a little bit, but I said, what if they poisoned cocaine? I wonder if I'd still do it. This back when I was an addict. Well, if anybody that's read my book, What Are the Odds from Crack Addict to CEO, I actually ended up getting poison cocaine and knew it was poison. 99% I knew it was poison because I'd been poisoned before by the same stuff, and I went ahead and did it anyway. You know what I mean? So it's like, the power of that. And they did a thing with cocaine once with other drugs now, where they have Narcan or I think it's called Narcan. And at first I was kind of against that, going, well, now you're encouraging everybody to just hang out with Narcan, and now it's safe to do drugs. Well, the lives that it saved more than outweigh ones that kept going because obviously dying didn't scare them. You know what I mean? Because with fentanyl in the drugs now, it's like a rush. It's like roulette. You know what I mean? You're just, any time that could happen, but people are still using. So that thing has saved lives. And there's other stuff that I'm going to get involved in that's going to be coming out. I'll be making some big announcements here very soon, where imagine if you could test something and you know that there's fentanyl in it. if you know it, that you can test your drug, even if you bought it or if you're selling it, and that you'd have that, and it would be amazing. And
Yeah.
so that's coming soon.
Okay. Let me we dodged a bullet not having Tim Walz as our vice president. Listen to how he reacts to Donald Trump and what he's calling for with Democrats.
Think of how easy it would be to be a damn Republican. Oh, what should I wear today? This stupid freaking red hat. What should I say today? I don't know. Just make sure it's cruel. Who do we listen to? That guy. Oh, the felon in the White House? Yeah, listen to him and that will be fine. Now he's talking about burning flags. He's going to have flag burning or whatever, because he knows there's a hell of a lot of flags with his picture on it that are going to get burned. Think of.
All right. So
wow, I haven't seen that. And
yeah.
Then you wonder why I'm considering running for Minnesota governor. I mean, you guys,
Yes.
This guy is absolutely over the top. The whole nation's finding out what we in Minnesota already knew. I mean, I went round and round with this guy. I was going to run for governor in 2020, in 2022. And, but after the stolen election, I said I wouldn't run to be a dog catcher till we secure our elections, but I see that's coming. Well, anyway, before the 2020 election, everybody, we still have the mask thing. This is back when I thought they worked. And our governor had reached out, or Walz had reached out, hey, we need more masks. And I was just going to donate them to the state of Minnesota. It's about 3 weeks before the 2020 election. And he said, no, we're not taking masks from My Pillow or Mike Lindell until after the election, because he didn't want the publicity that, because I was so branded with Donald Trump, right?
Yeah.
And so this is kind of an interesting story. Then I said, you know what, I'm going public with this. I'm talking to his office, this terrible lady on the phone, and she goes, and I said, if you don't take these, accept these. You need them, and I have them, and I'm willing to give them to you. And she goes, okay, we agree, but there's no media, or the media is going to have to be a block away, because she knew it'd be delivered with the big My Pillow truck coming up. And so I said, fine, I'm just out to help people. I don't need this, this pat on the back, this, whatever. And so the next day, though, as things would have it, she got sick. She probably got the virus. Who knows? I don't know. But she got sick, so she couldn't be there to enforce what she was saying about the media. So the big truck pulled up, and the lady that I had actually worked for Walz, and her and I were talking, and I said, yeah, they said the media had to be across the street over there, whatever. And she goes, I can't stand the guy. She works for him. She goes, Mike, you should run for governor. I said, well, I'm thinking about it. And she goes, get those media trucks over here. So all the media trucks pull up, and they're all standing there. And the first thing she said, wouldn't Mike make a great governor? He should run for governor. I'm going, not a bad idea. This was 3 weeks before the elections. Of course, it was her last day that day. She got fired, I'm sure, but she didn't care. She wanted to leave. He's probably at home going, what? Yeah. But then he sent out cards, $1 million worth or more of cards all over the state of Minnesota with my picture on it, this dark picture of me, and it says, do you want this Trump-like guy, running for or being your governor? And it's this big scare card of Mike Lindell. He couldn't really say anything about my past, because I told it all. I'm about as transparent as they come. I grew up in Minnesota my whole life. I spent more time in the inner city that he let get burned down than probably most people. And by the way, all the stuff he let burn to the ground in Minneapolis in the summer of 2020, in the precinct, starting with the precinct, if everybody remembers that, he just let him burn it to the ground. All my friends that had gotten off drugs back then, and there were many of us that I helped them get out of that world, and given so much to the Teen Challenge and Salvation Army in Minneapolis there, but helping these guys rebuild their lives. They had businesses up and down Lake Street. They were all burned to the ground then. And these are the things, if I run for governor, they're going to find out about what Walz has done, not just his crazy, bizarre behavior. I mean, that he, like saying that right there. I mean, you talk about somebody pitting, two, people dividing. He takes Obama dividing people and times it by 10. I mean, just, A lot of people say, well, our governor's worse than yours. You know what? I've been around this whole country. I would put at least 4 up by Walz, but he is right up there in the top 5, if not number 1 at times, and the whole country knows about him. If he would win 1 more term in Minnesota, that's why I'm thinking of running. I believe I maybe one of the few that could beat him, but he in Minnesota would be ruined. We're at the tipping point where we might not be able to come back. What he's physically destroyed in our state, and then the value. You see what he wants. He would like a state push anybody with a red hat right out of Minnesota. That's what he wants to do. He wants to destroy Minnesota. There's another thing there too. There's a lot of things that I can't even say on your program here because I would getting out in front of things we're already doing on the ground in Minnesota to try and fight this at that level. And but it's disgusting. Minnesota, by the way, in 2016 and 2020, Donald Trump won Minnesota. In my opinion, I'll put a little disclaimer there for you.
Yeah, I've seen the data, so I have a similar opinion to you. You've been through legal stuff over the years. President Trump today from the Oval Office is asking the DOJ to double down on the worthless auto pen pardons. He's saying many of these people were not deserving. The auto pen should not stick. He's put Ed Martin on that. Do you think we're going to see those be unwound and those people prosecuted?
Well, one can hope so. All I know is that he's working hard on every, going back in time with Ed Martin and stuff, not just on this, but on a lot of other stuff too, everybody. And you're going to see a lot of things because everybody always asks me, well, Mike, you're so focused on being proactive, fixing our elections going forward. What about the people that did all these things? And I'm telling you guys, there's good things going on. Now, am I still attacked? Absolutely. Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota, is a full-blown attack on my election or my addiction platform, which is very sad right now. He's going just this big attack, and I've been talking to Ed Martin about that too, because they're looking at all these attorney generals in some of these states like Minnesota. Did someone order them to do this against people like Mike Lindell? And so there's I think you're going to find is so much of this ties together. You talk about the auto pens and who's behind all this, and people ask me all the time. I say, well, it's the uniparty, deep state, globalist, CCP. That's my 4 things. Now, if you want to talk individuals, I think we all know in our head where a lot of them are. When you see deviations in behavior, you're going either they have a very evil agenda. If it doesn't help people, if it doesn't help people, I'm talking all walks of life. If nothing helps anybody, there's a hidden agenda. It's very evil, or it could be a self-serving agenda for a lot of these people too. So, but there's great things. By the way, I'm getting my phone back after 4 or 3 years. The phone that the FBI took, I'm getting it back on Thursday. And the only, I mean, obviously I got new phones since then, but there's pictures on there when my father passed away that my grandkids that I thought I'd never get back, stuff that was on there that was irreplaceable, but they kept it for no reason. It was September of 22. So 23, 24, 25, they've had it for 3 years, and all they had to do was ask me for a backup. Here you go. I got nothing to hide. And it's shameful, but but all these things are going to lead back to, and the president, I think he's shown everybody he doesn't give up on anything. So he's not going to say, oh, this one's too hard to get to. It doesn't matter. If it's more of a challenge, he's getting to it. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another statement he made the other day when you talk about this is with Tina Peters, when he said, Colorado, free Tina Peters, or things are going to get very tough on you, or something like that. So I mean, he just takes out these different silos and let's just fix this, fix this, fix this, fix it. Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, he's a guy that you want getting stuff done because he's a doer. So, okay, final question. I appreciate you coming on. So Gavin Newsom is rising. I know we're still far out from the 2028, but I don't see anybody in the Democrat Party that would be a good contender, including Gavin Newsom, but he seems to be rising according to new polling data. the guy seems pretty full of himself. Make America Gavin again.
Right, right.
Like, this is a guy that's been destroying California for many, many decades. This is a guy who believes he can do no wrong.
Right.
Someone put a snapshot: highest poverty rate, highest homelessness, highest unemployment, highest gases, highest housing costs. 53% of students can't do English, math, science, highest taxes, on and on and on and on. Your thoughts? Is he going to be the person that the Democrats put forward in 2028?
Well, as of right now, I would say he is, because you got to look at the marketing. What he has right now, he has a pretty decent marketer. I always look at the marketing for evil and good, right? And obviously, evil has a bigger voice. They don't anymore, because there's so many podcasts out there. There's so many new platforms out there where everybody's not getting their news from Fox News or all the left news. Either, you know what I mean? You're not getting it. You're getting it from, like you just say, you see a post, well, now you see the bad things underneath it. Now, how much can social media control that? Where you have, you used to have Facebook, and he would control everything of what people to see. You're only going to see one thing. I'm only going to see one thing. And these people are going to get brainwashed that Newsom is okay, right? And they don't see all his bad things. Well, if you live in California, you're going, wait a minute, like, kind of like Waltz and us in Minnesota. But Waltz is so over the top, too bombastic. He's so out there that people can, he's his own worst enemy there. But Newsom, he's getting free publicity here right now. He's using things like you just see there, make America Newsom again, or whatever, you know what I mean? I mean, they're doing things that are catchy, that people, that you got to realize, if you're a Democrat, if you're on the left, and I'm not talking towards the middle, if you're this left of center and all the way to the left, you're looking for any kind of hope. So he's the only thing they got right now. Not that he would be, and if I was going to set up right now and say, hey, if you had to pick someone that you had a one in a, now if you have secure machines, or if you have secure election platforms, everybody, I will tell you, there's no worry at all in this country, because we are 68% red if it was completely fair elections. My teams have extrapolated that, but for right now, he would be the guy, and they're getting very good at marketing. Remember, you got to just not you got to market him, but you got to hide what he's done in the past. But you got so many people, you got to hide that, which you have the media. You can control the media somewhat to do that. If this be 4 years ago, he'd have it made. But since then, look at all the platforms up. You got True Social, Vocal, you got Telegram, you got even the new Facebook, so to speak. You've got X instead of Jack Dorsey's Twitter, but you got all these places where things aren't getting covered up that contains false information. If you'd have put that up there where it said all those things Newsom's done to destroy California 4 years ago, that would have had a cover over it that said contains false information. Seriously, this is where we're at, everybody. And this is where we're at. So I would be I don't think it's time to worry now, but it would be, I would worry more if I was going to pick some of the thing is he's got the name, and they're looking for anything right now, any kind of a hope. And that's a perfect example why Waltz would win. Somebody that nuts would win Minnesota. Minnesota isn't bright red, but it's probably a 50-50 now with all the, at least we maybe have a little more than 50%. But you think with the way Waltz is, if you've lived there, you have about 10% of people on the left over here, Democrats, would vote for anybody other than him of what he's done to destroy our state. These are your common sense cold still that are voting Democrat, right? We have a lot of them in Minnesota that are looking for hope the other way, but it's all about, it's about marketing. And I think we're in a good place where they don't have that one voice, and then the other voice is suppressed through lawfare. You've gotten rid of that lawfare, so it didn't work. We broke through it, everybody. We're still here. And then you have the other, that's all the media on the right. And when I say that, that's your Foxes, your Newsmax, and your Salem medias that are like weather channels now that can't report hurricanes or tornadoes when it comes to securing our elections, and that's a fact. So then you have these over here that we don't have to rely on just being attacked to get the word out. We have great places now, and they're not covering stuff up anymore like they did. People, it's basically our First Amendment right of free speech is what we won, and we broke through, and that our president is protecting that, and he's out there going for it. And I think it's going to be amazing. Everybody just keep the faith.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, I know you're a busy guy. Thank you so much for coming on. If people want to catch you online, other than going to My Pillow, which we'll put a link down below, where can they follow you?
You guys can go to any of the platforms. I have my own vocalvocl.com. That's it's like Facebook on steroids, but I'm on X under Real Mike Lindell. You guys, if you want to find out anything that's going on in the country, you can go to lindellplan.com. That's lindellplan.com. This is if you want to know what's going on with our election platforms, but the best place is lindelltv.com. We have one of the things there. We have 2 White House correspondents, one at the White House, one at the Capitol. The president, we got to come right in with the big boys. So we're right in the Oval Office there with Lindell TV. Instead, you got Foxes and the CNNs going, what are they doing here? Well, you know what? You don't have monopoly anymore. We're here to stay. And so
that's exciting.
Yeah,
that's very exciting. Well, I'll put those direct links down below. Thank you for your time. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Stephen. God bless. Yeah.